We're expecting any minute now to see Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
Now, he did speak briefly yesterday. He spoke briefly yesterday.
We're seeing right now that it's a very rainy image outside of the courthouse right now. Jerika, you're reporting this past week. You've talked about the presence of Andrea Constant in the courtroom. What effect do you think that had on the trial and on the jurors itself?
And I'm having a little tough time hearing you. Andrea Constant's testimony.
Yes.
Is that what you're referring to?
Exactly. I was talking about
Absolutely.
your reporting
I
this
mean,
week.
that was their key witness. And legal experts we talked to thought she did a really good job of staying calm and keeping her composure.
Jerika, I'm going to interrupt for a second. We're going to listen to Bill Cosby's attorney at the podium right now.
We want to thank them. We want to thank our entire team, from our social media team, Kia Wilson. We want to thank Debbie Meister, our tour manager. We want to thank Attorney Tom Larkin. But let's get to the best. Let's get to the best. Let's get to the greatest of all time attorneys that exist at this day and time. Let's hear from Attorney Angela Agrusa, and then we will hear from the GOAT, Brian McMonagle. So, Attorney Angela Agrusa.
Thank you. This is no. I'm sorry, we can't. I wanted to say today was very important. We have worked very hard to present a case to this court, to this jury, to these 12 people who worked tirelessly to listen. This is what happens. Juries are stuck. When a prosecutor seeks to put someone in prison for things that are simply not presented in the courtroom. And the jury stuck to what they were asked to do, and that is to review the evidence before them, and there simply wasn't enough. And we are grateful for the time that they put into it, and for the court in Allegheny and for the court here in Montgomery County to allowing this process to complete at least through this stage. So thank you.
Now we will hear from the guy who gave the most amazing closing and one of the top criminal attorneys in the world. And Johnny Cochran is smiling down, Attorney Brian McMonagle.
You know about that build-up. I just want to thank the court, the people of Montgomery County. This court system was tremendous. The people of Pittsburgh that came here and deliberated long and hard over days, 52 hours of deliberations. The judge is right. Justice is real. It lives here in Montgomery County. I'm proud to have been able to represent Mr. Cosby. We came here looking for an acquittal, but like that Rolling Stone song says, you don't always get what you want. Sometimes you get what you need. God bless you all, and happy Father's Day.
Mr. Cosby, how do you feel? Mr. Cosby, how do you think?
I can't do this.
Any comment, Mr. Cosby?
Okay. Tom, please.
Mr. Cosby, you have a
Attorney Tom Larkin, please.
How do you feel?
Please go, Tom. Go, Tom. All right, everyone. We want to get the attorneys out the ring. Right now, I am going to introduce my associate with Purpose PR firm. She's going to read a signed statement from Mrs. Camille Cosby.
How do I describe the district attorney? Heinously and exploitively ambitious. How do I describe the judge? Overtly arrogant and collaborating with the district attorney. How do I describe the counsels for the accusers? Totally unethical. How do I describe many, but not all, general media? Blatantly vicious entities that continually disseminated intentional omissions of truths for the primary purpose of greedily selling sensationalism at the expense of a human life. Historically, people have challenged injustices. I am grateful to any of the jurors who tenaciously fought to review the evidence, which is the rightful way to make a sound decision. Ultimately, that is a manifestation of justice based on facts, not lies. As a very special friend once stated, truth can be subdued but not destroyed. Moreover, I express humongous gratitude to counselors Brian McMonagle and Angela Agrusa for their hard work. Mr. McMonagle for his passionate and powerful articulations of truth. Ms. Agrusa for her thorough research to bolster Counsel McMonagle. To Mr. Andrew Wyatt for his unequivocal skills in public relations. To our team, who work diligently and intelligently, to our staffs for their continuous commitment to our family and me, and to our children, grandchildren, and other family who loves us, and to our dear friends and supporters who never gave up on us, despite it all. Camille Cosby.
Thank you. And before questions, before we leave, I want to say something in the words of Huey P. Newton. Power is the ability to define phenomenon, making it act in a designed manner. Power is the ability to define phenomenon and make it act in a designed manner. Mr. Cosby, power is back. It's back. It has been restored. The jurors, they use their power to speak. And Mrs. Cosby, power is back. So the legacy didn't go anywhere. It has been restored. And for all those attorneys who conspired like Gloria Allred, tell them to go back to law school and take another class. Thank you.
Mr. Cosby, Mr. Cosby, one word.
If you're joining us now, this is a live image of Bill Cosby exiting the courthouse with his attorneys on both sides there, it appears. A judge, if you're joining us now, officially declaring a mistrial in the Bill Cosby criminal trial. It's been over 50 weeks that he has been here. The juries have been, 50 hours that the jury has been deliberating, trying to reach this verdict. And a statement was read on behalf of Camille Cosby, his wife. Very harsh words for the judge here. I want to head now to Ricky Kleeman, a legal analyst who joins us now by phone. Ricky, the defense here somewhat declaring that Bill Cosby's power is back. I'm not sure if you were able to hear what they were saying.
Yes, I could hear.
You did. Okay, what did you make of their demeanor following this verdict?
Well, I certainly think that the lawyers themselves conducted themselves appropriately as they have throughout the trial. But I am very critical of Mr. Cosby's spokesperson. I do not think it is helpful in any way, shape, or form for him to be gloating and to be condemning of anything about the process, the prosecutor, or let alone the judge. This case is not over. Mr. Cosby has got to go back before this same judge, and that this is just really not a good idea to go full force and criticize the court. I understand if the spokesperson wants to criticize Attorney Gloria Allred, who has been a steadfast advocate for the alleged victims for many, many years. They are obviously on opposite sides of the case, but it never serves your client well to condemn the judge. And I do think that that's, personally, I think that that was a mistake. Bill Cosby has not regained his power back. To quote Huey Newton, I am sure that will be criticized because many of us go back and understand exactly who Huey Newton was back in those years. But the reality is this: there will be another trial. And Mr. Cosby is going to have to face these allegations again. And there will be a new jury. And a new jury may decide that he is not guilty, but a new jury could decide he's guilty.
He's 79 years old, Ricky. What does this look like for him in the next few months, years? Is there a sense as to how soon this will progress?
Well, Mr. Cosby, we have to remember, not only is 79 years old and that he is facing another criminal trial for the exact same allegations brought by Andrea Constant and Kevin Steele, the prosecutor, but he has a myriad of civil suits that are still facing him throughout the country that he and his lawyers will have to deal with. We know that he is considered legally blind, although his spokesperson, Mr. Wyatt, said, I think yesterday or the day before, that Mr. Cosby was in excellent health. He certainly does not appear to be in such excellent health. And as time goes on, you cannot underestimate the stress that not only a criminal case would have, but also a civil case. We also have to remember, if at a later point in time, Mr. Cosby is convicted of the same allegations that there was just a mistrial for, that he is facing a possible
Ricky, I'm going to interrupt
10 years
1 second.
per
We're going to
count.
head to Gloria Aldred, who's in front of the mic
She's
right there.
one of the accusers of Mr. Cosby, and we also have. Pardon me?
No, they're asking you to speak louder.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Attorney Gloria Allred. I represent 33 accusers of Mr. Cosby. One of them is Linda Kirkpatrick. She's with me today. She'll be making a statement. And then we also have with us Jewel Ellison. And she'll make a statement as well. This is my statement in reference to the mistrial. We can never underestimate the blinding power of celebrity. I'm sorry, just waiting. Ready? We can never underestimate the blinding power of celebrity, but justice will come. I hope that the prosecution will try this case again, and that the next time the court will permit more prior bad act witnesses to testify, as the prosecution had requested for this trial. For the trial that just ended, the court only allowed one such prior bad act witness to testify, and that was my client, Kelly Johnson, rather than the 13 such witnesses which the prosecution wanted to call. If the court allows more accusers to testify next time, it might make a difference. In other words, it's too early to celebrate Mr. Cosby. Round two may be just around the corner. And this time, justice may prevail. I also want to commend the courage of Andrea Constant, as well as Kelly Johnson and their mothers in testifying, and all of the accusers whom I represent who have spoken out. They've taken risks. They've refused to be silenced. And I want them to keep their spirits up. And I also want other persons who believe that they are assault victims of anyone to report it to law enforcement and to stay strong and to consult private attorneys and to know that there can be justice and there may be justice in the future. I'm returning to court in Santa Monica on June 27th on our case of Judy Huff versus Bill Cosby, and we'll look forward to the courts setting a trial date and to working for justice in our civil lawsuit against Mr. Cosby. And now this is Linda Kirkpatrick. You want to take? Sure.
What great respect and admiration I have for the jury, unquestionably the hardest working jury in the country over the last 50 plus hours of deliberation. He thought he could bury us. He didn't know we were seeds. We are sprouting up. We are looking for reform, uncovering the rape culture in this country where victims are blamed and shamed. We are continuing looking for more reform to represent all victims of sexual assault, male or female. Only 2% of rapists in this country ever spend one day in jail. 98% of rapists are walking among us to prey upon us again, men and women. It's time for reform, people. Open your eyes. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much.
reform, what the policy, statute of limitations in California. I was part of only 8 people that got the statute of limitations abolished in California for the benefit of 38 million people. In Nevada, we've just made some headway there. There are still 25 states that have a statute of limitations on rape and assault. We got to change that.
I wrote something here to make sure that I said what was really in my heart, but I gotta digress for just a second and start with talking to the Black community. I just want to say I feel your pain. I understand that. But in the words of the late, great Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., he said we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. It is time for rape and violence. That's the end of the quote. It is time for rape and violence to stop so the healing can start. Let's walk together as one family to solve our differences peacefully. Clearly, we must work towards creating a peaceful, egalitarian society. God is watching all of us.
Are there any questions?
Gloria,
Pardon me?
Andrea coming to speak to us. Andrea.
What about it? Oh, I have no idea. I don't represent Andrew. Oh, sorry.
Gloria, you can look ahead to the camera.
Oh,
and answer
okay.
my question. Your reaction to this mistrial? That we had the jury had said that they were hopelessly deadlocked. The judge sent them back, and now a couple of days later, they said they were hopelessly deadlocked. Are you surprised by what just happened? And just your reaction overall?
I'm never surprised by what a jury will do. And as I said the other day, it's not over till it's over. And it may not be over yet. It's over for this jury, but the prosecution can still refile and impanel a new jury. I've seen that many times in cases all over the country, and sometimes a second jury will render a different outcome than the first jury, and sometimes that's conviction. So we don't know. We have to await the prosecutor's decision as to whether or not he will refile. Has he already announced this morning? Okay, well that's good, because sometimes prosecutors wait to know how many jurors have voted, for conviction or not. But if he has already said that, then I am very happy, because that's important. And again, I emphasize that I would like to see a court decide that more prior bad act accusers can testify, because that's relevant on the issue of whether Mr. Cosby had a plan, a scheme to drug and sexually assault women. And I think the jury will be better served if they can hear from the other accusers, and then they can make that decision as to whether they would convict or not, and whether an alleged victim was in the position to consent or was incapacitated by drugs.
Other than adding more women to a case, which they weren't able to do before.
Because the court did not permit it, although the prosecution argued for it.
What would you advise them to do next time that they didn't do this time?
I think they did a very, very good job, and I want to commend District Attorney Steele, law enforcement, the detectives, Kristen Fedden, Stu, everybody on the team.
What could they do differently?
I would like to, they should again argue for more accusers to be able to testify. Other than that, I'm sure they'll analyze what they might want to do differently, and I'll wait their decision. Pardon me? Yeah, I mean, it's relevant as a matter of law on the issue of consent. Did he know they didn't consent? If they believe he is drugging a number of women and then sexually assaulting them, then that could prove that he knew that they could not consent if they were incapacitated, could not consent, and that there was a plan, a scheme to do what he did. And that's why I think it's really important that the other accusers be able to testify. And on those 2 points, as a matter of law, that's why the prosecution argued that they should be allowed to testify. So, all right. So, never give up is what I say to other sexual assault victims throughout the country. Never give in and never give up. Thank you.
We were just listening to Gloria Allred, who is an attorney representing several of the accusers here, and she's coming forward to the mics here to address the crowd. I want to bring in criminal defense attorney Caroline Polizzi. She joins me now by phone. Caroline, we heard Bill Cosby's spokesperson say power is back for Bill Cosby after this mistrial. Gloria Allred there, we heard her say to the attorneys representing Cosby, you need to go back to law school. It's too early to celebrate Mr. Cosby. Do you agree?
Right. I don't agree. It's not too early to celebrate. A mistrial is, by all accounts, a win for the defense here. You know, Gloria Allred referenced the blinding power of celebrity in this case. I would counter that, saying that it could simply just be that the fact is the prosecution had an extremely flimsy case. They brought this case very late in the game, just prior to the 12-year statute of limitations in Pennsylvania. No forensic evidence, very, very weak case. And, you know, Ms. Allred also referenced these prior bad act witnesses. I would venture to say that even allowing that one prior bad act witness, Kelly Johnson, of course, the former William Morris employee, she testified, she gave really tearful and emotional testimony. That's highly prejudicial testimony. This case is about Andrea Constant and what potentially transpired in 2004. It's not about the other accusers. And to make the assertion that more of these prior bad act witnesses should have been allowed in, that's just flies in the face of our justice system in general. Again, this is about the circumscribed set of evidence that we have relating to this one incident with Andrea Constant. It's not about the other accusers. It's not about victim shaming or rape culture. It should specifically be about what happened that evening.
Caroline, you talk about the other victims. There were so many more who wanted to come forward, but the statute of limitations had sort of expired. And Gloria Allred spoke to this, saying that they want to change the statute of limitations on rape. Is that something that could change in America?
Absolutely. I mean, Ms. Allred is really leading the force on that front, and I don't necessarily disagree with her. However, there are two different issues here. So this is great that she's taking this on. She's being a champion of women's rights, and I agree with her. She should. However, it shouldn't impact Mr. Cosby's trial in this instance. Again, I don't think that the prosecution has a very good case here. Of course, we know that initially when Ms. Constant raised these allegations, they declined to prosecute. It was only in the wake of a new administration, a new district attorney, that they sort of dug this up from the past and, you know, let that to get that deposition unsealed, the 2005-2006 deposition testimony of Mr. Cosby, that was really the nail in the coffin in this case. And, you know, he's already been convicted in the court of public opinion. I think today, this, again, it's a win for the defense. The jury obviously not able to say that they are sure beyond a reasonable doubt that a criminal act occurred that evening.
If you're joining us now, the judge in the Bill Cosby criminal case has declared a mistrial after about 52 hours of testimony in the courtroom there. I want to bring in CBS News legal analyst Ricky Kleeman. Ricky, Caroline was just telling us that she believes that it is not too early for Bill Cosby to celebrate. Do you agree with that?
Well, I understand, having been on both sides of these cases in my life, that a mistrial is, of course, a victory for the defense and a defeat for the prosecution. The difficulty in celebration is that this is all going to start all over again. And that gloating, which certainly came from the spokesperson for Bill Cosby, I think, and that's my word of gloating, but being way over the top is, again, my phrase, does not help Bill Cosby when he has to go back before this court. Bill Cosby has a long road here. They are going to prosecute him again. They are going to try and do it as soon as possible. They may have 12 other jurors who think he's guilty immediately. Of course, they could have 12 other jurors who acquit him. No one knows until that jury is picked and ultimately makes a decision if they can. He also has these civil cases that he has to deal with. I mean, his life is a life in constant turmoil of litigation that is not going away. While saying that, I do think that it was a very interesting juxtaposition of Caroline's very true interpretation of the law having to do with what is called prior bad acts in terms of evidence versus Gloria Allred's interpretation of the law of prior bad acts. And what you have here is a classroom exercise, a textbook perfect exposition of the two sides of this, that you are not allowed in a court of law to bring up other incidents of alleged misconduct or crimes unless it falls within certain very limited exceptions. And one of those exceptions is called a common scheme or plan, which in common parlance would be called a pattern. So this judge allowed one prior bad act, and that was the testimony of Kelly Johnson. He went a lot farther than that, since he allowed Miss Johnson's accusation of sexual assault by Mr. Cosby to be corroborated by both Miss Johnson's mother and her own lawyer, which was a bit surprising to say the least that got into evidence. But Gloria Allred, lawyer for many of the alleged victims, wants lots of prior bad acts in there because this case of Andrea Constant has a lot of weaknesses in it that can be exploited by a good defense lawyer. On the other side of that, Caroline's exposition is exactly correct from the defense point of view, which is that we should be trying people on the crimes that they committed. We should be trying people on the crimes they are alleged to have committed, and only that crime. So this is a battle, this prior bad act battle, as we call it, or the battle of the other accusers. That's going to be fought again for the next trial.
If you're joining us now, any moment now, by actually about 11:30 Eastern, we are standing by expecting District Attorney Kevin Steele to hold a press conference at 11:30. I'm joined by legal analyst CBS News Ricky Kleeman and also criminal defense attorney Caroline Polizzi. Caroline, to you now. What do you think this entire saga, not just this mistrial, but the entire legal situation that Cosby has found himself in, means for women? These cases, what does it mean for women who are fighting sexual assault in the courts?
Well, you know, as I said before, I think it's great that Ms. Allred has taken this up as a mantle. However, I don't think it's fair to Mr. Cosby to sort of hang all of society's problems that we have in terms of how our society deals with sexual assault on campuses,
But it has raised a spotlight, Carolyn, on sexual assault. I mean, he's such a big figure. It's undeniable that he's had an impact sort of in how people are viewing this in some way. What would you say to women who are out there who are trying to, and for some women, it could be years. When the sexual assault victims I speak to, they don't feel comfortable necessarily coming forward. What does that mean for them?
Well, we saw this play out, right? There's really no playbook on how to react after you've been the victim of a sexual assault. We saw Angela Grusa in this case, in the Cosby case. She's, of course, the second seating Brian McMonagle. And I think it was a PR move, really, to have a woman cross-examine Andrea Constant, because she had, of course, many holes in her story, many inconsistencies. And that's not necessarily inconsistent with how a victim of a sexual assault would behave. I think it's important for victims to realize that they should be able to come forward. However, they're going to be questioned about it. They're going to go through something that may not necessarily be a pleasant experience. So I think you have to weigh both sides. I think you have to both vigorously defend defendants' rights, right? I mean, Mr. Cosby certainly still enjoys the presumption of innocence now that he's now been declared a mistrial. However, we can't discount what victims say either. So I think really we have to take every case in a case-by-case analysis, not lump them all together.
Also joining us, Ricky Kleeman. Ricky, I want to read you here. Bill Cosby released a statement that was read outside the courtroom with Bill Cosby standing next to the attorneys. It says here, how do I describe the DA? Heinously and exploitively ambitious. How do I describe the judge? Overtly arrogant and collaborating with the district attorney. What do you make of this statement?
Well, I can understand Camille Cosby's frustration, and I certainly understand why she is angry with the DA, because he really ran for office on the basis that the system had failed by not indicting Bill Cosby back in 2005 for this 2004 allegation. I mean, that was where his claim to fame was. That's why we brought a jury to Norristown, which is outside of Philadelphia, from all the way across the state, 300 miles away, because of that. But again, I can't stress it enough. Going after the judge is not helpful. Not only because of this case possibly going back before the same judge, but frankly, the case going back before any judge. No one who is on the bench feels good about their brothers and sisters on the bench being criticized by a defendant's spouse, or by a defendant's spokesperson. You will note, by the way, that there was no public statement from Mr. Cosby's lawyers that went and denigrated the judge. I just think this is not helpful. We can understand if Camille Cosby really believes that her husband, Bill Cosby, has been a victim of lies and innuendo and really ambition on the part of a prosecutor, that she is upset. And that's all fine. If I were the lawyer for Mr. Cosby, I would have certainly deleted the phrases about the judge.
Ricky Kleeman, if you could stand by, I want to bring in another criminal defense attorney, Nicole DeBoard, who joins us now by phone. Nicole, this man you're looking at, Bill Cosby, was once declared America's dad. What do you think this case means for him personally today, this mistrial?
You know, I think it's a small victory. Anytime anyone is ever accused of something as serious as sexual assault, it's life-altering. Even when you have a situation where you haven't been found guilty, this is never going away. The reputation damage is permanent. And even if this case is never retried, again, his consequences are forever. So it's almost a bit of sort of the opposite of closure. I mean, it just leaves this open-ended. A jury didn't make a decision. He's been through all this. The stain will remain. And there was no verdict.
We are standing by at 11:30 Eastern. We expect District Attorney Kevin Steele to hold a press conference. Nicole, what do you anticipate that he might say addressing this mistrial today?
That's a good question. I think decisions now need to be made about whether or not it's worth retrying the case. And it seems that both sides put in every effort to do their very best and to present their best case. And to me, it seems like a decision on whether or not to try the case again will be based on whether or not they think that there's different or additional information that a different jury could hear. And so they'll probably make some statement about whether or not they think that's likely and whether or not they think that they will present anything differently.
I want to bring in now CBS's Kenneth Craig, who's outside the courtroom right now. Kenneth, what have you heard this morning? What have you seen? And anything from inside the courtroom today as this mistrial was read?
Well, Rena, I'll tell you, I was inside the courtroom when this mistrial decision was made by the judge, and it was really a remarkable moment. I was sitting in front of a number of the other accusers, a number of the other women who have accused Bill Cosby of similar allegations, and they were all sitting behind me. They were holding hands. They were leaning on each other. This has, of course, been a very long ride for them as well. I talked with a couple of them this morning, and they just told me they were exhausted. They were ready for this to be over any way that was going to happen. And when this did happen, they were sitting behind me and they started crying. They were emotional. But what I will tell you is when the district attorney said that he would retry this case, and he said that very emphatically, you heard a loud gasp from them, a sigh from them, seeming to agree with the district attorney and applauding the decision to do so.
So interesting to hear you talk about the jurors' response to all of this. It has been over 53 hours, Kenneth, of testimony, hours in the courtroom behind this. What can you tell us about what the mood was like inside the courtroom over the course of the past few days?
Well, over the past few days, things have been very tense. Of course, as you know, this jury has come back with one question after another, about a dozen questions in all. And over the last couple of days, these jurors have looked simply exhausted, defeated at times, sometimes leaving the courtroom looking somewhat angry at the fact that they were in this position. I saw one juror yesterday sort of crossing his arms and hanging his head down low. He sort of seemed sort of disappointed that they were in this position after so many hours of deliberating. Yesterday, when they were listening to testimony that they asked the judge to rehear, some of us noticed at least two of the jurors nodding off as that testimony was read back to them. It has been an exhausting ride for these jurors. 12-hour days over the last week, deliberating all day long. This has been an 11-day trial, and as you know, they were deliberating for longer than testimony itself. 53 hours of deliberations to arrive at this moment today in the courtroom, as the judge went one by one through each of those jurors and asked if in fact they were deadlocked. They actually seemed much calmer than they had in days past. They seemed resigned to the position they were in, and very clear that
Kenneth, I just want to show you, we're seeing a live picture here. I apologize for interrupting. This is the live where the press conference we're expecting to take place at about 11:30 Eastern. District Attorney Kevin Steele will be addressing the media at this podium. Kenneth, what do you anticipate? Is there any sense from where you're standing outside the courtroom of what the district attorney wants to say?
Well, we have a lot of questions for the district attorney about what is going to happen from here. This has been 18 months in the making. I was there when Bill Cosby was arrested and arraigned for the first time not far from here 18 months ago. The district attorney has been very, very passionate about this case. Kevin Steele is the one who reopened this and brought this to trial after some 10, 13 years ago. The former district attorney decided that there wasn't enough evidence to take this case forward. So this district attorney has clearly been behind this the entire time. And as I said just a moment ago, when the judge asked him if he would retry this case after this mistrial, he was very quick to say yes. So we want to hear more from him about what he plans to do, how quickly this is going to trial, and what his plans are for securing a conviction next time around.
I want to head to Ricky Kleeman, CBS News legal analyst. Ricky, when you're talking about the prosecution coming forward with a retrial, what exactly does that mean, and what will the process look like?
Well, the process looks like this. The prosecution will go back to court. They will ask to set a date for a retrial. The defense will object to a retrial, and the defense will also lose that because, of course, the prosecution has the right to retry the case when you have a hung jury. And then the prosecution will ask for an early date, and then the defense will say, no, we need a later date because there's too much publicity now. Now, this is international publicity, this mistrial. So they have to wait, as I put it, for the blood to boil over. They have to wait for things to settle down in order to get a date where the publicity diminishes. Whether that's 3 months or 6 months, it's hard to say. And it will be this little tug of war between the prosecution wanting it sooner and the defense wanting it later. Now, the real question, which will really take place in terms of how Pennsylvania does its business, will be, does Judge O'Neill do the retrial, or does it go to another judge? In most states around the country, the judge who tried it retries it. And so then the second question is, where will the jury come from? It is obviously not going to be another jury that could come right out of the Philadelphia area. We already know this one didn't. But since these jurors came from Allegheny County, where Pittsburgh is, the other side of the state, has now, because of these jurors coming from that county, is that county also tainted for publicity that you would have to go to yet another county? These are things that will have to be worked out. I also think that Gloria Allred is quite correct that the prosecution is going to try once again to get in more accusers of what we call prior bad act evidence into the second trial. And if it is Judge O'Neill has set his own precedent that he is only allowed one, and so it would really not be, in essence, looking good for Judge O'Neill to say, well, I allowed one and I had a mistrial, maybe I should allow 13 and then I'll have a conviction. I think that's a difficult position for Judge O'Neill to take. Mm-hmm. If he thought it was fair to allow one, does he stay with just one? Does he add another one? Does he let them all in? He's in a position where he may or may not be criticized, and as a judge, he may or may not care about public criticism and will just do what he thinks is right. The idea is not to try a criminal defendant on the basis of everything that isn't an issue in a case. What's an issue in this case is Andrea Constant and what happened to her in 2004. It is not an issue, all of the other accusers, but it doesn't mean at some other case, at some other time, that the other accusers may not testify. Perhaps they will.
To Nicole DeBoer. Nicole, how uncommon is a mistrial like this after over 50 hours in the court?
It is, the judge has to make a determination about how much time was spent in trial versus how much time comparatively should be allowed for deliberation. And if there's any hope that there could be a verdict, sometimes the judge, depending on what they feel is going on back there, even though it's like reading tea leaves, will give more time for jurors to deliberate. I think these jurors deliberated so long that ultimately the judge had no choice but to feel comfortable in his knowledge that they're not going to ever come to a decision. And it may be that the court was aware at some point of questions that remained unresolved or that were consistently reviewed by the jury, and that led to his decision. But, if this case comes forward with the same evidence again, there are real questions as to whether or not a new jury would reach any different conclusion or be able to come to a conclusion at all.
Ricky, if you had to point to one moment in this case that potentially led to a mistrial, were there several moments? What do you think ultimately led to this decision of a mistrial? Is there a way of gauging that?
I don't think that we can point to a moment or several moments. I think what you have to do is exactly what the jury did. You have to look at the case as a whole and say, as jurors, does all of the evidence lead us to a conclusion that the prosecution proved its case beyond a reasonable doubt? And we know that... Maybe I'll amend my statement. We know one thing, that with all of the evidence, it gets summed up in the closing arguments of the prosecution and the defense. And this is my amendment to my statement. Brian McMonagle's defense closing argument was something that could be taught to lawyers around the country. It is really an extraordinary piece of work where he could take every inconsistency that happened in Ms. Constant's testimony and could look at those phone calls, which obviously had to bother the jury. There's something like 73 phone calls that happen after this event. And Mr. McGonigal did something else that I think for the defense was a stellar moment. And that's when he publicly shamed his client, Bill Cosby, for being a philanderer and for being a not good person. And he praised Camille Cosby, the wife, as the long-suffering wife. And the language was, when you dance, you have to pay the band. And he danced, and she deserved better. That phrasing was chilling. So he served a very good function for his client because he showed the jury that Bill Cosby was shamed. and that Bill Cosby, in his own way, was punished, even though he was not punished criminally. It was very good advocacy, and whether people like the result or don't like the result of this case, and whatever side they are on, as a lawyer, we have to admire good advocacy that is ethical and proper.
Nicole, Ricky mentions the wife of Bill Cosby, Camille. She released a statement that was read, and part of it says she's grateful to the jurors, but also ultimately she says that is a manifestation of justice based on facts, not lies. What do you make of the fact she released this statement and had it read just as they left the courthouse today?
I think she's probably frustrated. I mean, I can't imagine the stress that their family must be going through. And understandably, there is so much focus on the complainants in the case when something like this is alleged. But when you have someone going to court with an accusation as serious as this that could result in a life sentence and has already resulted in a life branding, people all over the country and all over the world are making judgments about Camille. And there's nothing that she can do to fix that or change that. Again, the stain of the allegation in and of itself in a case as serious as this is life-altering. And she's probably feeling an enormous amount of frustration that there's nothing available in the system to fix that. And she sees her husband as totally innocent. She's made that clear and is there to support him. And she is trying to say thank you to the jury for spending the time. I'm sure she's frustrated that it couldn't come to a result.
For joining us now, the judge officially declaring a mistrial in Bill Cosby's criminal case. The verdict coming down just a short time ago this morning in a Pennsylvania courtroom. We are standing by for District Attorney Kevin Steele. This is the podium where he's going to come to. He's going to hold a press conference. When you're talking about the situation, Ricky, and the DA's role in all of this, talk to us a little bit more about that. And what do you expect he might come forward and say?
I expect that he will thank the jurors for their conscientious deliberations. I expect that he will say that he is going to retry this case and that he will seek justice for Andrea Constant. And I expect he will say he will try it soon. I think that my impression of Kevin Steele, and obviously I'm doing this from afar because I haven't met him, but my impression of him from reading the transcripts of the trial as they go on and the articles from the trial and talking to my CBS News colleagues who are there is that he has conducted himself at trial with the most integrity. So he is on a mission that he will be the vehicle. He is the gladiator who is going to put Bill Cosby behind bars. I expect that we'll hear that. What I hope I don't hear, what I hope I don't hear is vengeance. What I hope I hear is someone who believes that he's going to go forward and do justice. And there's a difference. Hopefully my expectations of him are in line with what I hope I get to hear.
Nicole, this is the man who was once known as Dr. Huxtable in the 80s show, The Cosby Show. Everyone knows him as America's dad. The fact that he was such a public figure and so beloved before all of this, what impact do you think that had on this court case, if any?
It's hard to say. I mean, anytime you have a well-known defendant in a case, it can be very difficult to pick a jury because lots of people come into the courtroom with opinions formed about the person on trial. And what every court strives to do is make sure that what happens in the courtroom is a decision about the actual facts in the case. And when people come in with predispositions to exactly maybe what happened or what they think could have happened or what the character of the person is, it poses real problems. And for him, I mean, again, the reality is that his reputation is forever destroyed. Will that impact the next trial? It's very possible. They're going to have a lot of thinking to do about whether or not they present the case in the same way. The prosecution has now seen the defense, knows exactly what to expect, and the next trial could be different.
These are the images after Bill Cosby left the courthouse today. I want to head now to Gloria Allred, who's been representing some of the accusers, the victims in this case. Miss Allred, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I want to read you a statement. It was released by Camille Cosby, the wife of Bill Cosby. She says, "How do I describe the counsels for the accusers? Totally unethical." What do you say to Camille Cosby in her statement released after the courthouse today?
Well, I mean, Camille Cosby is an alleged victim of Mr. Cosby, so I really don't have anything to say to her, except that I continue to invite her, if she wants to come anywhere, anytime, and meet with any of my clients who are the accusers of Mr. Cosby. I will invite her to sit down face to face with them and listen to what they allege happened. And then she can ask them any questions. The only person that would be exempted from that would be my client in the lawsuit that we are litigating against Mr. Cosby, that's Judy Huth, who alleges in her lawsuit that she was 15 years old when she became the victim of sexual misconduct by Mr. Cosby at the Playboy Mansion. That's an allegation of child sexual abuse. But other than that, why doesn't she come and listen to the accusers? They're willing to talk with her, answer her questions, and then she can make her decision as to whether or not Mr. Cosby has done what the accusers allege. Somehow she doesn't seem to want to know that or do that, but she still has time. I'll keep that invitation open.
The prosecutors say they will go forward with another retrial. What do you make of that?
I'm very happy that they will. I think they were very restricted in this trial. They had asked the court to be permitted to call 13 prior bad act witnesses, in other words, 13 accusers, to testify in this criminal case. But the court only permitted one. That's my client, Kelly Johnson. She testified and her mother testified. So there were only two accusers in this case, Andrea Constant and Kelly. Next time around, I hope that the court will permit more prior bad act witnesses to testify so that the jury will have more information and they can decide under Pennsylvania law whether there was an absence of mistake by Mr. Cosby.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aldred, for joining us. I apologize. We have to head now to the district attorney who's addressing this court case. Let's listen in.
The jury was not able to come to a unanimous verdict in this case. We appreciate the extraordinary sacrifices that the jurors made, coming all the way from Pittsburgh and deliberating and working for the time period they did. This has been a long process to get to this point. We had to overcome a number of obstacles that were put in our way, number of legal maneuvers by the defense to stop or delay this trial. We got to try our case, and we got to be in a position where Andrea Constant and our other prior bad acts witness could testify in a court of law as to the facts of what happened to them. We will evaluate and review our case. We will take a hard look at everything involved, and then we will retry it. As I said in court, our plan is to move this case forward as soon as possible. There's some good outcomes that have come from this. Despite the fact that the jury couldn't come to a verdict in this case, Andrea Constant and our prior bad acts witness got to face the defendant in court and got to tell what happened to them. Too often, these types of crimes, sexual assaults, do not get reported, especially cases where a drug has been used in a drug-facilitated sexual assault, an intoxicant, so that a victim does not have a clear memory of what went on. So we hope that doing this and moving forward in this case sends a strong message that victims of these type of crimes can come forward and can be heard on what has happened to them, and they will have the prosecutors and investigators that are looking at those cases take a hard look at them and treat them with the respect that they deserve. The other part of this is, I think, is so important is standing up for sexual assault victims. This is a case that we know has been important for sexual assault victims everywhere, but when we look at the case we have one victim. We have Andrea Constant. She has shown such courage through this, and I think I share our thoughts on her. We're just in awe of what she has done and moved forward in this case. And when we made the determination that we had talked about today of moving forward, it lies in the fact that she's entitled to a verdict in this case, and the citizens of Montgomery County, where this crime occurred, are entitled to a verdict in this case, and we will push forward to try to get that done and get justice done. Now, our job in this, and as prosecutors, we should take on the tough cases, and we do, and we do it because it's the right thing to do. And in this case, there's no doubt in my mind, in all of our minds, that this was the right thing to do, and so we will push forward. I'll also tell you that I feel very blessed to be in this position because I am surrounded by an incredible group of people, a dedicated group of public servants who certainly aren't in this for the money. They are committed to doing what's right, and I want to start with the two folks that are flanking me. So I don't know how much you know about their background, but they started at the same time in our office. Coming up in August will be their 5th year as prosecutors. So you all, as long as you were in the courtroom, got to see what I got to see, and I am just incredibly proud of the two of them and how they stepped up. I heard one question asked, was this their only case? They're consistently carrying cases of about 200. Stu is the captain of our sex crimes unit, and Kristen is the captain of our domestic violence unit and elder abuse. They run their teams. They work very hard in each and every one of the cases they have, and they, I hope, make all the citizens of Montgomery proud of what they do. Our appellate unit, Bob Fallon, who's the deputy district attorney, and Adrian Jappy. They aren't here because they're usually in the background on a lot of things, but the two of them and their team over across the way, which sits right across the hall from where you all sit now, have kept up with everything the defense threw at us, every attempt to stop this up, the motions that were filed. They have just worked and worked and worked to make sure that we could get to the point where we could go into a courtroom and try a case. The other thing I would be remiss if I did not speak about is our law enforcement community, and a number of the folks up here with us, Chief Gallen and I, and Chief Fry from Cheltenham, cannot be more proud of our law enforcement community and everything that they have done through this. So Sergeant Schaefer here, who has been with this since day one, and everything that he did. Where's Harry? This guy retired, and he's still here. And Harry and all the folks from Cheltenham who worked their tails off in this, and nothing but great things to say about them and our affiants over on the side, Mike Shade and Jim Reap, who are Montgomery County detectives, and we're all just so proud of them. Deputy Chief Bernsteel behind Jim Reap, who had to manage a lot of the work that the team did, and again, our Chief Gallen and I can't be more proud of all of them. I also would be remiss if I didn't thank the Attorney General's office for the help that they provided us in Pittsburgh when we were out there selecting the jury, and the Allegheny County District Attorney's office, who helped us in every way they could and opened up their doors to us and worked with us and are just show how law enforcement works together and the team approach that we attack all these issues with. So at this point, I'll take a few questions, but I'll preface before I take these questions, we're retrying a case here. So there's things that I will not be able to get into, and hopefully I can answer a few of your questions, Laura.
What will you do differently next time, if anything? Will you seek to get even more prior bad acts witnesses in?
Well, we have to reevaluate the case, and that's going to be part of the process now. And we do that in most cases. When we're finished a case, we take a hard look at things, see if there's things that we can improve upon. We felt really good about this case. We felt good about it on Friday when we closed our evidence. And we felt good about it on Monday when we closed. So, there's always tweaks, and we can always do things better. So that'll be a self-assessment that we'll go through. Jim?
Can you explain what goes into the timeline of setting a new trial date?
So the judge made some indications in court that he was looking to put this on within the next 120 days. What I expect in the near future is we'll set a pretrial conference where we'll meet with the judge and get a timeline of what we're going to do. Legally, I think we have 365 days to try the case, but we're going to push it along. As I indicated before, this is a case where the victim and our community is entitled to a verdict, and we're going to work very hard to get to that. Carl, you got something, or are you just taping there? Peg?
Sir,
I'll get you in a minute.
So
Peg?
essentially you're saying no regrets and we'll do it again.
We're going to retry the case. I said it in court. There was no pause or hesitation about that, and we're moving forward.
Any changes to the jury? Any indication how many holdouts there was?
I'll try to do. Let me go this way. Yes, ma'am.
What failed and why so long?
I don't look at this as anything other than a jury that deliberated a long period of time. We are confident in the case that we put on, and we hope that we will be in a position where a jury will come to a unanimous verdict next time around.
Any idea
Yes, sir.
How many holdouts there were? Any idea where the jury was?
You know as much as us about that, and the court indicated that, I believe. We have no indication of where anybody was on the case, and I don't know that we will ever really know. We have to assess what we have done in the case, and we will push it forward.
But will
here.
you change jury selection in the new trial?
We have to evaluate each of these things. I mean, jury selection is a panel comes in, they're randomly selected for that panel, and then you choose people that you believe can follow the law, that can look at this in an impartial way, and not bring any bias or sympathy to this, and that's what we'll strive to do next time. Yes, ma'am.
How is Andrea Constant doing? What was her reaction? Does she have it in her to do this again?
I mentioned before how courageous she is, and I can't emphasize that enough. She is a positive person. She has kept all of us going through a number of days when we were waiting for a jury to come back. Last deadlocked jury I had was 92 or 93, so I'm not used to this. And she has been positive in every way and continues to be, and she has indicated she will continue to cooperate with us, and I look forward to her getting a verdict in the case. Yes, sir.
Will you be selecting a different judge for the retrial?
We don't select the judge. This is a judge who has been assigned to it, Judge O'Neill. He is the criminal administrative judge for the case, and I expect that he will be our judge. He's the one that indicated in court that he wants to put this on in the next 120 days. So we anticipate that going forward. Yes, sir.
If the next trial is likely going to be 2018, that's another year from the point of when the incident occurred. Is that distance from the time that it occurred? Does that make it more difficult to prove the extra year?
Well, I think one of the challenges that we face in this type of case is the time period that has gone on. So that's just a reality of where the posture of this case stands. But it doesn't affect the evidence, and I hope that if you sat through the court and the proceedings, you saw how powerful that evidence is, and we have items of evidence that we put up in court that I think keep us very confident in getting to the right result. Yes, ma'am.
Camille Cosby put out a statement describing you.
I'm not going to talk about Camille Cosby and whatever.
Sir, do you think the publicity of this case could potentially taint a new jury? And what is it that you think may have gone wrong that at least one juror did not buy your case?
I can't comment on how the jury was not able to come to a conclusion, and you all who were in court again saw the same things I do. I have no indications one way or another. You heard all the same questions that we heard, so I have no insight to provide on that other than the case that we put together. Yes, sir.
Are you concerned about the follow-up, sir? Are you concerned about the public?
Go ahead.
Has Constant told you with confidence that she is definitely willing to go at this again, to do it again?
As I said, she is just a very courageous person, and indicated that she's going to cooperate with us moving forward. So, no, there's no doubt in my mind on that. Yes, sir.
Just thanks for taking the time. I work for an African-American radio station. There were a lot of people in the African-American community out protesting today, and they criticized your case.
You've been listening in to District Attorney Kevin Steele addressing the media after an official mistrial verdict announcing that he will, in fact, seek a retrial. Joining me now is the attorney representing several of the accusers, Gloria Allred. Gloria, was this mistrial in the Cosby case a setback for women seeking justice in sexual assault cases?
Well, I think that we can never underestimate the power of celebrity, the blinding power of celebrity, but I believe that justice will come. And round two apparently is just around the corner because the prosecutor has said that he will retry the case. And I do hope that the court will re-examine its earlier ruling where the prosecutor had asked that 13 prior bad act witnesses or accusers of Mr. Cosby be permitted to testify in addition to Andrea Constant. The court only allowed one. So I hope that there will be more the next time. And I would say to all persons who believe they are victims of sexual assault, never give in, never give up. Continue to report to law enforcement and continue to have courage in these matters. Justice will come.
The DA says they're going to re-examine their case and the approach to the case. What advice would you have for the District Attorney's Division, their group, as they approach a retrial?
Well, I'm sure they will reevaluate the case that just ended in a mistrial and think about what else they could have done. In addition, it's going to be for the defense to re-examine what they did because they did not get an acquittal. This is not a vindication of anybody. And that's really important to emphasize because there is going to be another case. There's no double jeopardy here. And so I think it's important to understand that there will be a re-examination. I don't know whether the court will re-examine its ruling on the prior bad act witnesses, but I certainly hope that it will.
For sexual assault cases in America, what does this mistrial mean for women across this country?
Well, it's always hard to prove a criminal case beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the highest burden of proof in our justice system. I am also suing Mr. Cosby on behalf of Judy Huth in a civil lawsuit wherein Judith Huth alleges that she was 15 years old when she became the victim of sexual misconduct by Mr. Cosby at the Playboy Mansion. That's an allegation of child sexual abuse. So there's a lower burden of proof, not as high as beyond a reasonable doubt, but by a preponderance of the evidence for us to be able to prove our case and prevail. And we're moving forward on that case. We're going to return to court in Santa Monica where the case is being heard on June 27th. And we're looking forward at some point soon to be able to take the second deposition of Mr. Cosby and get his testimony under oath. We took it once, but then the criminal case was filed. The court ordered that he appear for a second deposition in this case, but then delayed it until after the criminal case. So we're looking forward to moving forward. And I just want sexual assault victims to know that they can also go to victims' rights attorneys and seek advice about filing civil lawsuits for damages, to reimburse them for their therapy, for their doctor's bills, for their pain and suffering. And that's what they should do in addition to reporting to law enforcement. And I think it's important because then they can become empowered to assert their rights and gain the vindication that they so rightfully deserve.
Gloria, you mentioned also changing the statute of limitations on rape. What did you mean by that earlier today?
Yes, there is a time period, arbitrary time period called the statute of limitations that exists in every state, and it's different in many states. And it's one for the for criminal prosecution of rape and sexual assault. It's different for perhaps for civil cases. Different if it's an adult survivor of child sexual abuse or an adult survivor of adult abuse. Consult a lawyer in your state to know what the time period is in your state. We are working to change those time periods, to eliminate the time period for rape and sexual assault. We have lengthened it. Some of my clients, accusers of Mr. Cosby, we testified in Nevada. We got the time period lengthened by 10 years. The governor signed it into law. Then we went to Colorado. Again, we got the time period lengthened for criminal prosecution of rape and sexual assault by 10 years. The governor signed it into law. Then we went to California for what I call the big enchilada, to eliminate the statute of limitations for criminal prosecution of rape and sexual assault, and we eliminated it in California. Now our focus is on eliminating it in Washington, D.C. But this is what we've done. Many of the accusers who were barred, stopped, prevented from even being able to have their cases prosecuted, even if a prosecutor believed that guilt beyond a reasonable doubt could be proven. They were barred by that statute of limitations. They're active in helping to win change and help other survivors in the future. I'm so proud of all of the accusers. I'm proud of my client, Kelly Johnson, who testified in this case, of Andrea Constant, who has shown so much courage throughout all of this. And I say to all of the others who are victims of anyone, never give in, never give up. Justice is just around the corner.
Gloria Allred, who represents several of the accusers against Bill Cosby. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Allred. I want to bring in criminal defense attorney Nicole DeBoard, who joins us now by phone. Nicole, we heard the image you're seeing there was a press conference earlier with the district attorney, Kevin Steele. What do you make of all this, the fact that he came forward today and officially announced they are going to retry?
You know, I think that was to be expected. They are going to move forward, I think, until they get a verdict of some kind in this case. I mean, if they go and try this case again and still get a mistrial, there have to be real questions about whether or not the costs involved in trying a case like this which is a lot more expensive than your average case because of the security and there's different courtroom requirements when you have a very noteworthy defendant. The protection for everybody involved is expensive. And if they get another mistrial, they're going to have real questions about whether or not to go forward again. And I have questions about what different evidence is really possible in this case. Both sides presented excellent cases. And unless the judge makes different rulings about what evidence comes in, the same result is very likely. Now, one thing is that everyone's eager to get this case on the road again very quickly, but both sides are entitled to have transcripts of all of the testimony. And anytime you have transcripts of testimony, it doesn't get easier because each of the witnesses that have now testified in criminal court are going to have transcripts. And they're going to be used to determine whether or not the answers they give in the next trial are consistent with the answers they gave in the last trial.
Nicole, walk me through both sides here.
How do you? Is not easier.
Walk me through both sides here. How do you think each side should approach this retrial differently from this current trial?
I'm not sure that the defense would do anything different at all. The defense was very organized and went through and pointed out all of the inconsistencies. For a retrial, the defense is going to need to go through all of the testimony from this trial and be ready to impeach or to question witnesses about any inconsistencies that pop up in the next trial. The prosecution, on the other hand, is going to do everything they can to try to bring more evidence of those prior bad acts that they wanted to get in front of the jury in the first place. Now, this case has been very public. Everybody that wasn't a juror on this case that watched this thing in the media knows that the prosecution has other claims that they wanted to make, and it's going to be hard to pick another jury that doesn't know about these things.
You talk about the jury, Nicole. How differently do you think jury selection should be? Is there a way, if you're looking at Kevin Steele here, the image right now of the district attorney addressing the media, how differently should they have approached jury selection? Should there have been any changes, you think?
I think that both sides did a good job. The question now will be, how do they get a jury that isn't aware of both sides? I guess the defense's defense and the prosecution's plan, and more importantly, there's going to be real questions about whether the proposed jurors have information about these other things that are these other accusations that didn't get actually brought into evidence for consideration by this jury. If these new proposed jurors are aware of those battles outside the courtroom, can they set that aside to consider only the facts in the case presented to them in the courtroom? And there are real questions about whether or not that's going to be something most folks can do.
Nicole DeBoard, thank you for joining us. If you're joining us now, we have received a mistrial verdict this morning in the Cosby case. The jury was deadlocked on all 3 counts and the judge officially declaring a mistrial. We're going to take a quick break. We have much more of this case and the rest of the news of the day on the other side of this break. We hope you stick with us. You're streaming CBSN.
search, share, post, pin, tumble, you message, you snap, and you chat, and then you click. And know for sure.
We're getting some breaking news into the newsroom. Here's the latest.
The free, easy, real news app that makes you that friend. CBSN. CBS News. Always on.
Go to the ends of the earth.
This is exciting.
You've never seen anything like it.
And reach for the stars.
This time. Da, 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 da.
Hey, this is pretty fun.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Experience thought-provoking, innovative, and truly original reporting.
Stand back.
Because there's always something new under the sun. On CBS Sunday Morning.
Lost at sea, the search continues for 7 missing U.S. sailors after the USS Fitzgerald collides with a container ship off the coast of Japan. Under pressure, President Trump lashes out at his deputy attorney general, who now faces increasing calls to recuse himself from the Russia investigation. And mistrial, a shocking outcome in Bill Cosby's sexual assault trial. We'll break it all down as the prosecution says they're ready to retry the case. CBSN starts now. Thank you for joining us. Well, prosecutors have sworn that they will retrial the Bill Cosby sexual assault case that's following the judge's decision to declare a mistrial. The jury deliberated for more than 52 hours over 6 days, but remained deadlocked. Cosby will remain free on bail while prosecutors plan their next move. Kenneth Craig is at the courthouse. Joins us now.
A mistrial has been declared in the case against Bill Cosby. He was accused of sexually assaulting Andrea Constand, a former Temple University employee. During the trial, Constand testified for several hours. She said Cosby gave her 3 blue pills to relax her while she was consulting him about her career at his Philadelphia mansion. She said the pills left her half-conscious and unable to move when Cosby touched her. The 79-year-old entertainer's lawyer, Brian McMonigal, said while Cosby had been unfaithful to his wife, he did not commit a crime. He added that the 2004 encounter was consensual and that the two had been intimate before. Cosby's lawyers called just one witness to the stand, a detective who testified for 6 minutes. Cosby did not take the stand in his own defense.
And Kenneth Craig joins me now from outside the courthouse in Norristown, Pennsylvania. Kevin, you were inside the courtroom. Can you tell us about the reaction when the judge actually declared this mistrial?
Well, right before the judge declared a mistrial, you could really almost hear a pin drop in the courtroom. Everybody was on the edge of their seat waiting for that decision. But what I did notice when the judge did declare the mistrial is that it was noticeably calm. I've been inside courtrooms for verdicts in a lot of different trials, and often there are large outbursts of emotion. I did not see that in this case. What I did notice, there were a number of other accusers, other Bill Cosby accusers who were sitting in the row right behind me. They were holding each other. They were clearly emotional, but no outbursts of emotion. The jury seemed calm, as did Cosby himself. He was leaning back in his chair, and he also did not show any noticeable emotion, Rena.
Kenneth, the prosecution says they're going to retry the entire case. What's the next steps going forward?
Well, you heard District Attorney Kevin Steele just a few moments ago talking at that news conference about his next step. He said he's got to go back to the drawing board with his fellow prosecutors to figure out and reevaluate this case as they take this to trial again. Next step is another pretrial hearing that will happen in the near future, in which they set some dates and the next course for all of this. But 120 days, that's what the judge said in court today, for this case to go back to trial again. The district attorney had said that he thought it would be 365 days. The judge said 120, but the district attorney very emphatic that they would take this back to trial. Again, he says it sends a strong message to other sexual assault victims to come forward, Rena.
120 days, only about 4 months' time. We'll be following this. Kenneth Craig from outside the courthouse. Kenneth, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Well, turning now overseas, another developing story. The Pentagon is investigating a violent incident at a U.S. base in Afghanistan. Officials have confirmed that American soldiers were injured during an incident, but they did not specify how many. They've also confirmed that one Afghan soldier was killed. According to a spokesperson for the Afghan army, this was an insider attack. That person claims that an Afghan soldier shot at least 4 American troops at the base, but the Pentagon has not confirmed that information. Meanwhile, a search is underway for 7 missing sailors after a U.S. Navy ship collided with a container ship off the coast of Japan. It happened 56 nautical miles southwest of Yokosuka. The Navy destroyer, the USS Fitzgerald, sustained damage and took on water, but managed to take it back to port. There are no reported injuries on the container ship, which did, by the way, sustain minor damage. Japan is now leading the search for the missing. Ben Tracy has more.
We don't yet know if some of these missing crew members were thrown overboard or if they were trapped in some of the damaged compartments of this ship. Now, this is the USS Fitzgerald heading back to shore after it collided with a much larger container ship that was based out of the Philippines.